Hi everyone. It's me. No, I hate that. Hi everyone, it's Sydney. No, I hate that too. Oh, well. Okay, so. Hi everyone. Welcome to my channel. Again, been forever since I've posted, but that's okay because life's pretty crazy. And not only in my life before coronavirus outbreak, but also now. So there's an excuse, I guess, but it's fine. I kind of wanted to treat this video as just like a chit chat, catch up on what I've read in 2020, which is not a lot compared to some people. And also just kind of like talk about like how Booktube is for me, because I love it. I love Booktube, I think it's great, but then I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I think that attributes to why this is only my third video. But, I mean, that's life. And I take this as a chit chat, not only to you all, but to myself, and just kind of like make sense of everything, I guess. So, I'm posting this video, again, to just kind of talk about my life and talk about what I've read and what I've loved and what I've been like meh about, and yeah. And again, these are just my opinions, and if you happen to love a book, more power to you. If you happen to hate a book that I like, more power to you. Everyone has their opinions and everybody has their own lives, and some people may resonate with things that I don't, and I may resonate with things that others don't. So that's okay. And we're all here to just enjoy life. And yeah. So I decided to, after I don't know how long, put on makeup, doll myself up, put on my most colorful shirt, feel myself for a little bit, and yeah, and film a little bit. So how many times can I say a little bit? I don't know. But yeah, I guess let's talk about what I've read so far in 2020. Excuse me, coffee break. This is my second cup of coffee in 2 hours, so if that doesn't tell you how we're going and getting through this, I don't know what. But, so, I've read 10 books so far in 2020 compared to a lot of other booktubers. That's not even a sneeze, it's like a gasp of breath. But with how my life was previously, 10 books in 4 months is pretty good. So yeah. So I'm gonna talk about the first book that I read in 2020, and that was for the Bisco Girl Readathon, which was my second video that I ever posted. I'm pretty proud of how much I did. I think I read 4 books out of the grand total of like 7 or 8 or so. Pretty proud, especially with my work schedule at that point, which was every day. So, go me! But the first book that I finished was The Incendiaries by R.O. Kwon. And I gave that 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I liked it when it switched through the 3 different points of view. The main character guy, the main character girl, and then like, I guess he's like a main character, but he's more of like a side character that influences both of the main characters. I really enjoyed it. I liked the hopeful end that the story gave, but it's like, if you were reading it from a realistic standpoint, you know that the hopeful end is more of just like the main guy character's like want and like his hope, but you know, like in reality, they're probably not true. But yeah, I liked it. I started reading it through my Libby account on audio, and then after a while I was like, I'm just not vibing with it, but I was vibing enough to want to keep reading it, so I just picked up the book from my library and I read it on the plane, because I went and visited my family in Tennessee, and so I read it on the plane, and it's a really short book. I don't remember how many pages off the top of my head, but I think it's around like, no more. I think it's like 200-ish, like below 200. So yeah, it was a really quick read and I enjoyed it. It was a very good airplane read. Now, My second book was The Diviners by Libba Bray, and I gave that 4 stars. That was another book that I also started reading through the Olivia account on audio, and then I was like, I'm enjoying it, but I really want to just hold the book, because I like really liked how the story was going, and I loved the character flips, and like the audiobook's great. Like, it's a full cast, like you get the difference in like characters' tones and feelings, and like they're all experiencing different stuff during this, but it's like still the stories are intertwined. But yeah, it was just another book where I was like, I really just want to hold it, and I loved it. I loved the book. I gave it 4 stars because I did feel that it was a little long, but I do know because of the other books in the series, it probably set up a lot of what's going on. So yeah, but I still felt it could have been a little shorter. I felt like some of the like tiny side stories didn't really need to be as like in-depth. I loved Naughty John. I think his character was great because like, yeah, you do think about like all these like horror movies where it's like, oh, we're dabbling in the dark arts and like magic and ooh, spooky things. But I liked it how it was like the people that brought him into the world again weren't really affected. It was like people don't know like how their actions can affect so many other things and people, and I like that. I thought that was a cool little thing that she wrote. So yep, I gave that 4 out of 5 stars. I bought the second book, Lair of Dreams. I have not touched that yet, but I'm planning on it sometime. Yeah. And now my third book that I read, and also The Diviners was again for the Visco Girl Readathon. And the second book I read was Frankly in Love, which was the like group book read for Visco Girl Readathon. And I gave that 3 out of 5 stars. I completely understood like what David Yoon was going for, like, you know, torn between 2 worlds, and you know, how do you do it? Because like personally, I'm a mixed person. You would never tell because I'm so white, but I'm half Puerto Rican and half white, and I was personally never raised in the Puerto Rican Hispanic side of things. Just that's how my cards were dealt, but I still appreciate it. Like, I lived in Florida, so you know, that impact and that culture I'm, you know, around, but sadly I was never around to be like experience it and understand, which I was really able to connect with Frank in that way, because he's you know, an Asian American, and he can't, you know, speak his native tongue, but he's expected to know all these things and act a certain way, but he's like, but that's not who I am. Like, I don't understand. And I was really able to connect with him that way. But there was also like just a point of like David Yoon's writing style where I was like, you're trying too hard to be like, I'm a hip kid and I know how everyone talks. And I also really didn't like how the and I'm sorry, I read these books so long ago, so I don't really remember everybody's name, but Frank's original girlfriend, I didn't really like how she ended up being treated. It was like, yeah, I love you, like, I want to tell you all these things, we're gonna have so much romantic times, and then all of a sudden, like, done. And then he just expected her to be like okay with it, which I guess some people might be that way, but yeah. And then it was just like, okay, there she is, she's gone, yep, she's okay now, she's happy, she's living her best life. But yeah, and I don't know, I didn't vibe with it as much as I guess I could, but I did enjoy the read, so I did give it 3 out of 5 stars. But overall, those are my probably like biggest complaints, was I just didn't vibe with the writing, I guess. But last book that I read for the Visco Girl Readathon was DayZ Journalist 6, and this is a book that I completely listened to on audio. And again, I kind of walked into it like, I'm not gonna be like other people, I'm gonna really dive deep into this book, and I just can't just imagine myself giving it 5 stars, like, because like, oh, it's everyone's favorite, you know, I really try to be different. But no, I loved it. I'm also the kind of person that like loves to learn like weird bits of history, and so, you know, whenever you have like those like VH1 like behind the music kind of things, and you get to really learn about how a group's dynamic was, or just like an individual singer's life was, like, that's fascinating. And so pretty much, as people have said, it's an entire book that's structured if it was a VH1 behind the music kind of thing. And I loved it. I thought that the ending was perfectly written, especially with how the author was, how she structured it into building up, like, not just like Daisy's relationship and how she was doing and Billy with her, and like, no, like I loved all of the stories, and I felt that at the ending it wasn't just some like, oh, and the band's done, oh, nobody got along, so sucks to suck. No, I thought that she wrote a really, really good story, and that, yeah, as much as many people say when they're talking about it, that it was, you know, as if I could turn on the TV and be like, okay, there's Daisy, there's the band. But yeah, I thought it was a really, really good story. I loved, again, I'm so sorry, I don't know a lot of these characters' names because I read it so long ago, but I loved the one girl who's like, no, like, I don't want this. Like, that's not what my life was, and it never was going to be that. And this is what I wanted for my life, and just because you're here and you say that I need to be this way, like, no, like, I had plans for myself before you walked into my life, and I'm going to stick to those plans. So either you agree or you disagree, and you come along or you go away. And I loved that, because like, there's so many times, like, especially with me, like where I am in my life, like, I don't know if like what I'm doing is the right thing to do, or if I'm doing it because like other people have expectations on me, or I'm doing it because I want to do it. And I think that that was a really good storyline of, yo, like, if you love something, then do it, you know? Don't just do things because other people expect you to do them. Like, no, do it. And I really like that. So I think that was probably like my favorite part of the story, besides like the ending and like the big reveal that we find out. I loved it. I really enjoyed that book. So I did give it 5 stars. Inevitably. And again, I loved the audiobook, and I loved how you got to hear the bits and pieces of music, like Taylor Jenkins Reid, like she really went in on that story, and yeah, I appreciated her hard work. So that is everything that I read in January. So I only read 4 books in January, which again for me is like, go me, like a book a week. Wow. So then let's go into February, and that is a book that is a topic of conversation, I guess you would say, on Booktube, and that is Serpent and Dove. And this book took me a long time to read. I started it in December, early December of 2019, and did not finish it until beginning of February. But I liked it. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It was another book that I felt, oh, I'm sorry, the book is by Shelby Mahurin. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it. But I did give it 3 out of 5 stars. And I think that's because, like, one, it was a type of book where it's like, I'd get into it, I'd really like it, I'd really enjoy what I was reading, and then all of a sudden it would like plateau, and I'd be like, all right, let's not pick it up for a full week and a half or 2 weeks. And I was like, okay. The one scene that like most people know about, Choice, loved it the whole time. I had a friend and I was reading it to him, and I was like, I love it. I was like, ugh, I'm cringing. I loved it. So that moment I was like, I'm here for it. And then I like, you know, read a bunch, but then again I put it down after a bit. But biggest complaint, and I don't know if I mean people probably talked about it, but I've not heard it. I think my biggest complaint is I loved Reed's chapters. I loved everything about it. I thought it was so pure and so like showed how he's truly struggling with like his emotions and his like, wow, like maybe not everything that I've been like force fed my entire life is true. Like I loved that. However, but there was not, and then, so complaint number 1 is that there was not enough Reed chapters. There was way too much Lou chapters, which again was fine because it's like a witch story, so you're gonna hear a lot about the witch and her point of view. But even before, and like before that big scene in the middle of the story, like all of a sudden when it came to Reed's behavior and Reed's feelings towards Lou, I felt all of a sudden like, yeah, it was like leading to that point, but there was like a complete 180 in how Reed was like talking to Lou. Like in the beginning he's like, I don't like you. You forced me into this situation. This is bullshit. Stop. And then all of a sudden he's like throwing it back at her and he's like, I'm cocky too, and I know how to talk to you too. And I was like, what? So I think that's my like second complaint when it came to the story, was that like I understood like where it was, but I feel like there was like a read chapter that just was like missing. And then if I could have like seen Reed's like mental like thought process of being like, you know what, if I can't beat her, I'm gonna join her, and then maybe that'll beat her kind of thing, you know. And I think I would have really appreciated that. But I still like 3 out of 5 stars, and I'm definitely gonna read the next one. I think it's called Blood and Honey. Definitely gonna read it because yeah, I thought it was good. And again, for a first debut novel, I think that Shelby Mahiran did a really good job. So yeah. My second book that I finished in, when did I finish this? In February. The second book that I finished in February was The Stranger Beside Me, Ted Bundy, The Shocking Inside Story. And I read this book because it was part of Olivia Reads a Latte's Buddy Read a Latte group. And it was like one of the group books that she chose because she decided to do like a crime novel story because she really likes that. And I was like, yeah, I'm here for Ted Bundy. I love a good serial killer backstory. Looking into it, especially when it was saying that this person was like super good friends with him for most of his young adult years and adult years. I really was enticed to it. This is a book that I listened to on audio, and I only gave this book 2 out of 5 stars. And like, I again am a person that really loves history. Like, I'll watch a bunch of stuff. I took a serial killer class. Like, I audited the serial killer class in undergrad because I was like, this is something that I want to know. But I didn't really like how the author like wrote stuff, because for me it was like a way that it was like, yeah, like I really like Ted, and I just couldn't imagine. It was like one of those things where it's like, I just couldn't believe that my dear friend would do this. And then it's like, but he did do this. And I don't know, it was almost like whenever she was talking about Ted's relationship, I'm blanking on the person's name, but Ted's like long-term relationship with that one woman, and it was almost as if the author was saying like, that could have been me, but I'm a good person, and I knew that she was so madly in love with him that I let her have him. And I was like, you realize now he's a serial killer, like a big old serial killer, and you're writing the story obviously after the events have happened, and you're still gonna write it in a way that's like, that could have been me, but I'm such a good person. So yeah, I only gave it 2 out of 5 stars because ultimately I didn't think that it gave me any more detailed information than like what I could have watched on Netflix. The book that I read in February was an audiobook. And I started it in February, and then I finished it like right at the cusp of March, so I'm gonna consider it for February because it basically took me the entire month of February to read because I could not vibe with it. Oh my god. And sadly, what that book was Kingdom of Souls. Now, this is a book that I read completely on audio again, and I don't know if it was because of the audiobook and how the narrator was reading, but I was like, dear Lord, shut up. Like, you are such a complainer. Like, this is crazy how much you are whining the entire, like, I don't know, I guess it was like the entire like first part of the book where I was like, well, okay, you don't have magic. Got it. You could have maybe do like 2 chapters because you're like, I started off as a kid, and then I grew up and I still don't have magic. Like, okay, cool. I totally understand because like your whole family is like super wielding magical beings, and like you don't. Like, I get that whole thing. But then, oh my god, when every single time she was like, you don't have magic and I could do so much better if I had magic. Like, but you don't. And end of story. And that was another book I felt was like way too long. But this is a book because I didn't like it as much as I thought I would be. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna probably pick up the next one. I may not. If I do, it probably won't be like right when it comes out. But yeah, that's my opinion. And I know so many people read that book and really enjoy it, but I didn't. And that was another book that was for the Buddy Read Latte. And yeah, so the next book that I read was one that I started towards the end of February, and I finished it like March 1st, but I don't know. I finished it in March, and it was Lovely War, and this was the other pick for Buddy Reads a Latte, and instead of February, I counted it for March, and I read this book on audio, and I loved it. I do not know how many stars I gave it. I think I gave it 4 stars. Let me make sure. Yes, I gave it 4 stars. I loved it because it was a full cast, and I thought it was excellently written. It's by Julie Berry. I'm a sucker for mythology. I think that there's so many different ways that you can take it and take a story that, like, you know, so many other people can resonate with and turn it on its head. And I thought it was great, especially because, like, you know, everybody that knows like the bare minimum of mythology is like, yeah, Persephone and Ares, that's a no-no because she's with Festus. So I thought it was really interesting, and especially at the end where then she was like, you're an idiot, and he's like, oh my god. I really liked it. I thought it was really cool, especially when you listen to audio, because then you get like the music stuff, especially when it comes to Apollo's chapters. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, I give it 4 out of 5 stars. And I don't really have anything else to complain about it. No. The 4 out of 5 stars. Yeah, I think that's pretty good, you know? Now, the next book, and the last book that I read in March, because I did not want to read anything in March, apparently. And also that's when, like, everything was happening with COVID-19, and so I was just really not focused, because my second job, I no longer have it, because it's a restaurant job, and I know that I'm incredibly blessed, and I'm so thankful because my other job is deemed as an essential position. So I do have that, but it was definitely a whirlwind to just like get a message from your employer. It was like, okay, bye. We're gonna take up the schedule. Sorry. So I think that's why, like, my head just really wasn't in reading in March. And so again, let's get to the point. My second book that I read was Woven in Moonlight. And I gave that book, I think I gave it 3. Did I give it 3? Oh no. My phone freaked out. Yeah, I gave it 3 stars out of 5. That was a book where I was like, it could be a little shorter. I think it's like 300 something pages. And I was like, this could be like 250, I guess. I don't know. It was another character. You know what I've noticed? I don't vibe with characters who bitch and moan about their situation. I just don't. I don't get it. Because, like, for me, I guess I'm the type of person where it's like, yep, that sucks, but let's do it. Like, let's get through it. Like, what good does complaining do? And it was another character where, like, she was in her situation, and I get it, sucks. Like, you weren't yourself for, like, I don't know, like 10, 15 years. But it was just something that I feel like if that was the case, like, that would be something that you just, like, move on from. Like, you'd be like, okay, I'm having a sad day, I'm having a sad moment, but, like, let's push it. I have a goal. I gotta do this. I gotta make my people thrive because of these bad people who, like, pushed us down. So, yeah, that was another book. I think that's the thing. I don't vibe with characters who just whine about their situation and, like, don't really do anything to, like, change it. And, like, I guess she did, but overall I was like, eh. So that put me in a little bit of a reading slump because of the whole, like, whining and stuff. Same thing with Kingdom of Souls. I was like, I don't want to read anything. But the first book that I read for April was for the Owl Magical Readathon. And that was for, let me see it, because I'm gonna butcher everything. That was for, because I'm doing Healer. Let me just show that to you. Inspiration by Olivia Reads a Latte, so copy it. So I did Healer, and there's like a bunch of stuff. I've not picked out a lot of books because, again, I'm not gonna pressure myself. But the book that I read was for divination, and luckily it was a book that I really liked, and that was Thunderhead. So it was the second book in the Scythe trilogy, Arc of the Scythe, I think that's what it's called. Loved it. I gave it a full 5 stars. Like, I thought, like, it was a book where it's like, okay, if I put it down, I put it down for a day or whatever, and then I'd pick it right back up, and then there's 70 pages read. There's 100 pages read. Especially towards the end, I was like, nope, 200 pages, I don't care. I don't care if that's what we're gonna read, because I loved it. There was so many twists and turns, and then there was things where I was like, are you kidding me? No, no. So, yeah, no, I loved Thunderhead. So, that was what I read. And so I'm reading 2 books now that are continuing for the Magical Readathon. The second one is, it's called Z, and it's the story of, like, it's a historical fiction based on Zelda Fitzgerald and F. Scott Fitzgerald's life. I've had this book for like ever, and it's for the book that's white, and that is for the Charms class. And then the other book that I'm reading is a book that's outside of like my comfort zone, I guess, and instead of the Healer position, it's for the Animagus training. So yes, and that is a book that's outside of my comfort zone, and that's what I decided to read, was a self-help book, because if all of this stuff is going on and I feel like I have no control over my life, what better way than to do a self-help book and feel at one with myself? And that book that I got was You Are a Badass at Making Money, because again, this whole situation where I was used to having 2 jobs, and now I only have 1 income, which again, I am truly blessed, and I completely understand that. But it was definitely a change in scenery kind of thing, and so I decided to pick up this book, and I'm really liking it. I'm about 50% of the way through. It's definitely given me ideas, and yeah, so that's what I've read. I'm about 50% way through that one. With Z, I'm only like 10% through, but whatever, no pressure. So the other thing that I wanted to do for this video, and it could be for you, it could be for whoever, and honestly, I think it's more so for myself, and that's to kind of talk about Booktube as a whole. And again, as I started this video off, I love it. I love turning on my TV, putting on YouTube, and watching all these people. I love seeing people happy. I love seeing people being so fascinated by what they're reading, and like book hauls, and being just like, I don't know, I'm gonna butcher that word, but basically just being happy about what they're reading, and I think that's great.